What's good, R&B squad? This is Heart of Ruth. I trust that this message meets you guys in good spirits. If you're new here, welcome. We don't believe that you're here by accident. We're happy to have you, and Jesus is even happier. So I had this dream, and before I get into it, you're going to know if this is for you because it's going to resonate with your spirit as you listen, okay? This is something that the Lord has already been placing on your heart. So this is just going to serve as confirmation to you. In the dream, this woman was sitting there and she looked like she had lost hope. She had very sad eyes. She reminded me, and this is not me trying to be funny or anything, guys. I'm just saying who she reminded me of. You guys know Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh? Just her disposition reminded me entirely of Eeyore. Like there wasn't anything that could be said or done to cheer her up. And then I saw what appeared to be this man, and he was standing at the doorway, and he was holding a lock and key in his hand. Now the lock was attached to the door, and he was holding the lock in one hand and the key in the other. And then he opened the door, and at the other side of the door is this man that was standing there. He was very handsome, and he was standing there, and as the door opens, the woman, she's sitting there, and it's like she can't believe that the door is actually opening because it seems as though she had tried to open the door on her own and it hadn't worked. But this other guy comes and he just opens the door, like just casually opens it. And on the other side is standing this handsome man, and the two of them look at each other. He looks at her and she looks at him, and you can tell that they know that there's nothing standing between them anymore, that nothing is going to come between them anymore, that door is never going to be shut again. And behind the man was what looked to be a barley field, like a field full of barley. So he was standing on this side of this place on the other side of the door, and there was this barley field behind him. Okay, and that was the end of the dream. And the Lord took me to a couple scriptures. So he took me to Psalm chapter 18, verse 19, and it reads, "He brought me forth also into a large place. He delivered me because he delighted in me." So for someone who has been waiting to meet their kingdom spouse, you don't know who your kingdom spouse is yet, and you're waiting to meet them, or for someone who is standing for a kingdom spouse who is a prodigal, okay? There is a separation happening between the two of you, even if you don't know the person yet. This person, it seems that there's a delay in this person coming to you and you meeting this person, okay? The Lord may have told you that this is your season to meet your God-ordained spouse and you haven't met them yet. Or the Lord may be telling you that this is your season to reunite with your God-ordained spouse who is a prodigal, and it hasn't happened yet. And at this point, you're wondering, you're like Eeyore. You've lost all of your optimism because it just doesn't look as if it's going to happen, okay? The Lord is reminding you of something. Before he lets you know that the door is now wide open, he is reminding you of something. He's reminding you of the fact that as long as your life is in his hands, there is nothing that the enemy can interrupt without his permission. Now let me break that down so that you guys can properly understand what he means by that, okay? When you're out there in the world and you haven't given your life over to the Lord and you haven't surrendered everything in your life over to the Lord, the enemy does not have to ask permission to mess stuff up for you. You already have the door wide open to him. But the minute you take that vow to become a Christian and you place everything in your life in God's hands, especially this, your marriage promise, your promise of union, you've placed this in God's hands, the enemy can't just come in and cause delay and cause problems without God's permission. So understand that if God permitted the enemy to cause this delay, he is going to use it for his glory and for your good. Okay? There's something that he was doing in this process, and I said was doing because it's coming to an end. Okay? The locksmith opened the door. That's who the man was in the dream. He was a locksmith. The door couldn't be opened without his help. So the door to your kingdom spouse, to your marriage promise, could not be opened without God's help. God allowed the door to be shut all of this time because he was using that time when the door was shut for something that is going to benefit you and your person and bring glory to him, okay? And then the Lord took me to Ruth chapter 1, verse 22, and that reads, So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab. Now they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Okay? That's important. You guys need to take that down. And then he took me to Ruth chapter 2, verse 23, and that reads, So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law. Now, in Bible times, gleaning and harvesting of barley and wheat took place during the spring months. And this is so significant, guys. After that comes the harvest of fruit in the summer. Did you guys get that? So in the book of Ruth, Ruth was asked to stay on in Boaz's field and glean there until the end of both the barley and the wheat harvest. Now the barley and wheat harvest comes to an end at the ending of spring and toward the beginning of summer. For many of you, mark the calendar because you're at the end, you're at the tail end of your gleaning season and you're about to bear the fruit. You're about to reap the fruit. In the summer comes the fruit harvest. Now, you guys remember a couple days ago, the Lord said to me, and I said it to you guys, that it's going to be an epic summer for a lot of you. For a lot of you, you're coming toward the end. You're winding down the gleaning process, okay? And that's why it's so hard to hold on. That's why you feel like you're losing hope. I am certain that even with Ruth, even though she was a woman of faith, even though she held on to her faith, and her faith was enormous. Even for a woman like Ruth, I'm sure there were days when it was difficult to hold on. Her first husband had died. She didn't have enough to eat. She had this elderly lady that she had to take care of. And she just didn't know from one day to the next what was going to happen. And then she meets Boaz, and he's so kind to her, and she falls in love with him. And then it turns out that he's not even sure if he can marry her because there's this other next of kin that's closer to her than he is. So I'm sure that there were days when Ruth felt like, what is going on here, Lord? What's happening? I lose everything. I come so close to being rewarded for what I lost. And now it seems as if I fell in love with this man, and now what? Now I'm going to have to marry somebody else? And that is significant for a lot of you. You fell in love with someone that the Lord placed on your heart and told you that that's your person. And now you're at a place where you're wondering, is it going to be this person or is he going to replace this person with somebody else? Let me tell y'all something. The Lord isn't replacing anybody with anybody. The person he said you're going to marry is your Boaz. All right? Don't give up hope. Ruth went on gleaning even though she did not know what the end result would be. Even after Boaz said to her, look, there's another next of kin that's closer to you. If he wants to marry you, I'm going to have to fall back. I'm going to have to step back. As much as I love you, I'm going to have to step back. Ruth didn't know what was going to happen after that, but she kept on gleaning. I want you to keep on gleaning. The Lord wants you to keep on gleaning. Okay? Don't give up hope. So I hope that this message blessed someone. Your harvest, your fruit harvest is right around the corner. All right? And I will be back with another word as soon as the Lord releases me. Take care.